What the narcissist did with your attention. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So attention, this is something the narcissist demanded when you were in the relationship. You had to give them your undivided attention, whether you were with them, sitting next to them at dinner, when you were in the house, when you were at work, when you were in traffic, when you were picking up their laundry, when you were paying their bills, when you were being not talked to because they were on a weekend trip with the guys or the girls. No matter where they were, when you weren't with them, you still had to keep your eyes glued on your smartphone. You had to wait or hold your breath hoping to get a phone call or a text. When you were with them, you still were giving them all of your attention. That's why years ago I coined the phrase, the unpaid helper, the walking apology, the sounding board, the person who regulated the narcissist. You did everything for them. You were on the payroll, you just didn't know it. That's why when you understand what narcissism is at its core, you realize that you have to get as far away from this person as fast as you can. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in one moment. There will have to be time that you'll have to process what had happened to you, how it happened, and then get ready to create, develop, and execute your exit plan. If you're out of the relationship, that part's done. Now you should be focusing on yourself, learning the definitions in the glossary on the narcissistic abusive cycle. Example, what is triangulation, what is gaslighting, mirroring, stonewalling, silent treatment, and more. Because now, if you are out of the relationship, and most likely you are, now that attention that you were putting into that bottomless pit, that vortex, that void, i.e. the narcissist, it doesn't go there any longer because they are not in your physical proximity. Yes, maybe they still have avenues of communication that they can contact you with. Maybe you are still trying to get divorced, go through child custody, splitting assets, and more. I get that. But if the person you're considering, if they have, let's say, discarded you or you ended it yourself, but you're still tethered to them in some way, well, now what you're doing is you're learning all about humanity, about mindset, about empathy, about narcissism, and about the trajectory of the life that you want to live once you're away from them and all the ties are cut. Now, I'm bouncing around a lot here because you are on the healing path just like I am. You need to remember we are all on the healing path headed in the same direction, simply taking different footsteps. You could be 10 miles in front of me. You could be 15 meters right behind me. Wherever you are, we're all going in the same direction, which is as far away from the narcissist as we can possibly get. But having said that, what the narcissist did with your attention, when you were in that relationship, think about what they changed about you. They probably changed your hairstyle. They probably changed the running shoes you wore or the sneakers you wore. They probably changed some of your clothes, and I'll give you some examples of that. They definitely changed the way you thought about yourself. They changed the way you thought about them. They changed who you spoke with, who you didn't, what you did on your free time, if you had any, what time you would wake up, what time you would go to bed, and how you would do as much as you possibly could for that person, knowing, or hoping, I should say, that tomorrow will be a better day. Well, you now understand that you didn't know back then that this relationship that you were a part of is an unfixable relationship. It could never be patched up because you have two people. You were one and the narcissist was the other in a relationship, or so you thought, and you were committed, loyal, loving, kind, empathetic. You were doing your best to put out all the fires they were starting intentionally, but you were doing all the work. And what was the narcissist doing? That's right, they were diverting your attention away from seeing who they really were and doing what you possibly should have been doing, just like myself, which is getting as far away from them as you could, into doing things for the narcissist. Because when you're in these relationships and you are in the trauma bond, or you're caught up in the devaluation stage, or you're tethered to the person who is your abuser, and you don't know what narcissism is, A, you're vulnerable, B, you're naive, C, you are feeding information to the person who is abusing you and manipulating you, and D, that person is just consuming your energy and more from you. And they are taking your attention away from what you should be doing and placing it onto them. The narcissist had multiple fuel sources when you were with them. You may have married them, maybe it was your best friend, your roommate, maybe it was the person you went to business with. It doesn't matter what your relationship was for this part of the video. What matters is the narcissist did whatever they could to destroy you, to take your attention and your energy away from yourself and of possibly figuring out who they were when you're in the relationship. And they were trying to consume all of your money, time, empathy, love, everything and more. Once they got whatever they wanted, or once you had a health challenge, or once you lost your job, or once something went sideways in your life, maybe you lost a loved one or something, this is when usually they will discard people, or they will cause damage, shock value damage, if you will, to take the attention, stay with me here, to take the attention off of where it should have been, and I'll give you an example right now, onto them. So here's an example. Let's say you were in the relationship with the narcissist, and let's say that you lost a loved one, and that person was extremely close with you. You loved them, maybe it was your family member. Well, what would the narcissist do? They wouldn't want you grieving and putting yourself back together and attending a funeral or a ceremony or wake or whatever, a tree of life celebration or whatever it was. They would want to tell you why you shouldn't go, or they wouldn't attend it with you, or they would say that they have a problem. See, they were trying to misdirect your attention away from where it should have been onto them. This is what they've done for thousands of years. Again, you weren't taught this in school. How could you know? I didn't know either. But think about what I just shared with you. You lost a loved one. You should be grieving them, and you should be processing what happened with other people and getting together and commemorating that person's life. But you probably didn't do that because maybe you attended the funeral, maybe you didn't. But what you did do is you were still thinking about the narcissist. See how they stole your attention? Okay, that's one example. Another one, let's think about your clothes. This is a little lighter example, but maybe you wore a certain kind of clothes, whatever they were. Well, what did the narcissist do? After they knew they had their dirty fangs sunken into you, they treated you like a Barbie doll or a Ken doll, and they would change the wardrobe you wore. So example, I personally was transformed into wearing skinny jeans for a period of time. I have no business wearing skinny jeans, but that's what you do when you're in the narcissistic abusive cycle and you don't know what's going on. The person who is abusing you and manipulating you and making a mockery out of you will completely change your wardrobe into something different, or your hair color, or the way you walk, or anything. That's why no good deed goes unpunished when you're in these relationships from hell, because the person is trying to manipulate you, mock you, give you the smirk, make themselves feel better because they're changing everything about you, and they're trying to do what? That's right, they're trying to misdirect your attention away from what you should be doing and onto them. Another thing, money. What does the narcissist love more than money? They love your money more than money. Think about this. This, I can assure you, it qualifies with you because it qualified with me. Maybe you didn't have credit card debt. Maybe you had a savings. Maybe you had a 401k. Maybe you had a great job. Maybe you had a business. Maybe you owned properties or cars or access to beach homes, whatever you had. You had a good amount of financial freedom before you met the narcissist, or you were independent any way you cut it. Well, then the narcissist began to take your attention away from, let's say, paying a credit card bill, or paying a mortgage, or paying whatever you had to, or saving, I should say, in the bank, and they wanted you to spend money on them. Really understand what I'm mentioning to you here. Why do you think somebody, a toxic person, would want you to spend money on them? Well, A, it's financial abuse. B, they knew that they placed you in the trauma bond or the devaluation stage. C, they knew that they could extract money from you, essentially extortion, if you will. And yeah, you may say, well, that's a little rough. Well, when you are in the zombie-like, trance-like state, extortion is a very light word to be using for financial abuse. But anyway, they were taking your money, pilfering it, and they were squirreling away their own money, or probably your money. And what did they do with the money they took from you? Well, not only did they blow it by trips or Amazon, or buying expensive gifts, or sending money to the in-laws in different countries, whatever you did, I can't tell you. But also they would take a little chunk of that for themselves, and they would begin squirreling that away. Maybe buying crypto, maybe buying silver, maybe buying gold, maybe funneling it back to a different person that they were cheating on you with. I can't tell you what they did, but the narcissist tried to bleed you dry of your money, and they didn't want you to have a good credit score. They didn't want you to have your life savings. They didn't want you to have your 401k. They didn't want you to be financially independent. This is why, I'm going to go off the topic here for a second. That's why when you're divorcing the narcissist, all they want to do, one of the things they want to do is burn through your money. And I mean your money, not their money, your money. And why do you think somebody would want to do that? Because they want to leave you destitute. They don't want you to have a leg to stand on. And they don't care. There's an expression in English, cut your nose off to spite your face. There's the narcissist for you right there, specifically when you're trying to get untethered from them financially. They make some of the most bizarre decisions. They hire some of the most peculiar people. They come up with some of the most inaccurate descriptions of what you did or didn't do, but what they try to do is burn through your money. So getting back on track, I've now mentioned your health and grieving, and I mentioned, I didn't mention your health fully, I mentioned grieving and money and some other things and clothes, etc. What about your health? This is huge. These are all huge, but think about health. When you're in the relationship, did you go to the doctor? Did you get your eyes checked? Did you get your blood tests done? Did you get your physical? Did you have all the other things you had to get done? Probably not. Maybe you did, but you probably didn't. Now, was the narcissist getting their clean bill of health? Possibly, probably. But you didn't, because you were putting your life on hold to help out the person that was abusing you. So that's why, and really drill into this with me, that's why when you're in these relationships, many times your health goes sideways. Maybe you had something like a rash, or you lost hair, or you were getting gray hairs earlier, or maybe your mind was super fuzzy, not just because of the narcissistic fog, but because you couldn't get your bearings. Maybe you came down with a health challenge. I can't tell you, but all of these things are not coincidences. They add up because you were in a toxic, life-threatening, debilitating, challenging relationship from hell. And it's the pressure that nobody sees but you felt, nobody knows about but you experienced. No one will ever know how you got the health challenge, but you will, because I did. You're looking at a person here with a detached retina, ACL replacement surgeries, multiple meniscus surgeries, and on and on and on. All these things equal abuse. They all equal the weight of the relationship falling on your shoulders. This is when you were uneducated, you didn't know what narcissism was, and you were ignoring things, or your attention was being diverted because the narcissist was steering your attention where they wanted it, which was on them and away from you. I'll give you one more example, then I'll share with you what happens post-relationship once you've healed, or once you're healing. Another example with how the narcissist took your attention is, think about people that you were allowed to talk to, or people that you were forbidden to talk to. So now the narcissist, I'm going back in time, they now have their dirty fangs sunken into you. They know that you were being love bombed, and now you're going to be subservient to them and do whatever you want because you're in that zombie-like, trance-like state. Well, now they're going to tell you, oh, don't talk to so-and-so because they don't really like you, or don't talk to so-and-so, they don't know what they're talking about, or don't talk to so-and-so because I'm not talking to them right now. And you would be scratching your head saying, well, I'm an adult, I can make my own mind up, I can talk with whomever I want to. But if you did that, you would be punished. So what did you do? You didn't talk to those people. Because again, you were in the trance, you were in the trauma bond, you were in the narcissistic fog. You were doing anything to keep that person who was your abuser appeased. So your attention wasn't going where it may have been going, which was to people, whoever they would be, that perhaps could have given you pieces of the puzzle as to that you were being abused. Now, did those people know you're being abused? Most likely they didn't. But most likely they were watching you up close and from afar, and they realized that you now weren't talking to them because you were now doing what the narcissist wanted you to do because your attention was going to what they were directing you to do. Think about it. One of the key components in the narcissistic abusive cycle or relationship is isolation. That happened to you. There's no two ways about it. You were isolated physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Your friends you're isolated from. Communication with people you're isolated from. You weren't talking to the doctors that you should have seen to get health checkups. You weren't doing the banking bills or paying the bills like you should have been. Everything was falling apart left, right, and center. And the narcissist was sitting back there smirking in the corner, in the pitch blackness of the corner, with their beady little eyes, grinning, smirking, their pupils swelling up with supply, saying, yeah, I'm doing it again. This is actually easier than the last time. Wow, I'm getting really good. I suppose because this person, which was you, and it definitely was me, is running low on resources. They have health challenges now, they have no money. Perhaps it's a pandemic, I can't tell you, but there's no support here. They can't give me what they used to give me, so I think I'll do the discard. It's about that time. I'll look at the calendar and figure out when a next pivotal day will be, and maybe it was right around a holiday, your birthday, or when you retired, or when you got your 401k, I can't tell you. Whenever it was, the narcissist knew about the time they were going to discard you. They didn't know the exact date and time or hour, but they knew what they were going to do because they know and they knew that each and every narcissistic relationship has an expiration date. Yours was no different. So that's another way. The narcissist was watching you. They were observing you. They were studying you. They were steering you. They were pushing you more and more and more. The narcissist was testing you over and over and over again. The more they tested you, the more tests inevitably you would fail. Why? Because the tests were built such that you couldn't pass them over time. Remember, the moving goalposts in the narcissistic relationship, or the crossbar being raised all the time, or the bar being elevated or raised, it always is moving and it's always being raised. So in the beginning of that relationship, what would please the narcissist or what would satiate them was much simpler. As you stayed stuck in that narcissistic relationship and the fog longer and longer, they threw more and more curveballs at you, and these were harder hitting and heavier to overcome. Again, picture, like I shared with you so many times, picture, if you will, there's a huge dam and you were sticking your finger in the dam because there's a little hole in the dam, and the dam is where water is held back, if you don't know what that is. And eventually there were a couple other holes in the dam, and then there's some cracks. Well, you only have 10 fingers and 10 toes, so you could only stick 10 of those, 20 of those fingers and toes in certain cracks and holes. Well, eventually that dam broke. There's the ending of the narcissistic relationship. All the toxicity was flooding all over you, and you were being washed away into a place that was pitch black because you didn't know what was going on. You were trying to sustain an unsustainable relationship. You were trying to fix an unfixable relationship, and all of your attention was going to do that. It wasn't going on reading the tea leaves and on seeing what was actually happening, because you ignored your instincts, you ignored your intuition, you did not pay attention to red flags, you didn't see any green flags, and you kept on trying to get back to that love bomb / euphoric stage when you thought, or it appeared, that everything was puppies and rainbows, unicorns and butterflies. Well, there's your narcissistic relationship in a nutshell. The first part's the love bomb / euphoric stage. Second part's the devaluation stage, which is the longest part of the relationship. Third part's the ending, and at times there's a hoover. Remember, never, and I mean never, accept a hoover. Become unhooverable. Block the narcissist. Get off the radar of them. Heal properly, and put yourself back together. So that will take me to this part. Once the relationship is over, and let's say it's been over for a couple months or a couple of years, whatever it is, as you are healing, you're getting stronger. As you're getting stronger, your attention is going back into yourself. It is getting further and further away from the narcissist and further and further away from what they did, because you're processing things, you're learning things, you're understanding so much more about mindset, humanity, empathy, narcissism, and more. And as you're healing, you realize that that relationship was worse than you thought it was. On top of that, you realize that you do have to cut the 4 ties. The emotional tie, the financial tie, the physical tie, and the spiritual tie. As you cut those, and probably you have cut some of those by now, or maybe all of them, then you realize your attention has returned. The clarity has returned. Your finances have returned. Your health has returned. You're addressing things that you were neglecting in the past, because the narcissist didn't want you addressing those things. They wanted you and your attention focused on them to the detriment of you. This is going to be a very tough pill to swallow. I hope you're sitting down. Remember, the narcissist does not want people to live to tell tales about what happened. The narcissist wants to keep people where they exist, in the low vibrational quagmire state. The narcissist wants to control people. The narcissist doesn't ever want the light to shine. The narcissist lives in the darkness. The narcissist needs attention. They need to steer you and your beautiful, bright, shining light away from its purpose, which you're figuring out now, onto them, so they could dim it more and more and more. And eventually, you don't have a luster. And as I shared in a video earlier this week, if you picture a candle with a long wick, when that you are the wick and you're the beautiful, bright, shining light, you're the light that lit the wick, the flame, if you will, they try to burn you out. And at the end, what would they do? Well, they'd step on the end of the wick and try to extinguish it. That's what the narcissist wants to do. And you may say it's a little graphic. No, it's not. If you think it's graphic, you may not have been in a life-threatening, debilitating, taxing, challenging relationship from hell. My hope is you weren't. But these people, they live in the underworld. They creep around in the shadows. They lurk around corners, and they do not want the beautiful, bright, shining light to shine as bright as it has shined or will shine for you. And certainly they didn't want my light to shine. Before I close the video, I'll share this. Once the relationship is over and you heal and you're healed properly, everything returns. It doesn't return to you overnight. You will have a lot of work to do. This will take time. It will take a lot of time. But in your time, you will heal if you utilize the tools that I provide for you with each and every video that I create from all the amazing, insightful, intuitive, beautiful, healed or healing comments from all over the world. This is where your attention needs to be placed. It needs to be placed within you. You need to recognize what the narcissist did, that they did it knowingly, willingly, and intentionally and deliberately. And they took their best shot at you so you wouldn't make it. But you did. That's why you're here. That's why you are resilient. That's why you're stronger than you know. That's why you escaped the narcissistic relationship. And that's why you have either put yourself back together or that's what you're doing. Any way you look at it, your attention is now going on what you need to be placing it on. So now, here we go, and I'll close the video. Think about something. Maybe when you're in the relationship, you want to go back to school. You couldn't because the narcissist was siphoning all your money. Maybe you just graduated school, whatever it was. Beauty school, dentistry, maybe it was being a nurse, whatever it was, you did it. Congratulations, I am super proud of you. Maybe maybe the narcissist took all of your money or most of it. Well, they probably did. Well, now maybe you're rebuilding your finances. Excellent job, that's good. You're placing your energy back into yourself. Maybe you finally changed your phone number. Well, that's fantastic. See, your energy's going where it should. You're changing. Maybe you relocated. Another one, that's fantastic. Maybe you went to the doctor today or this week and you got a clean bill of health or you got a checkup and you have to do a couple things. Maybe let's use dentistry. Maybe you have a cavity or two or you have to get something done. Well, you weren't going to the dentist when you were in the relationship, but now you're doing it. Now you're getting caught up because that money that you were spending on the narcissist, it's now going into your dentistry. See where I'm going with all this? It's your attention the narcissist was trying to steal from you. They never wanted you to know the huge magic act that they were performing on you, the illusions they were presenting to you, the house of cards that you were living in. They never wanted you to realize that it was all built on quicksand and that it would all erode one day and they would slither off elsewhere with everything they could take from you and not think twice. Quite the opposite. They would hope that you didn't make it. This is what the narcissist does. That's why you need to get as far away from these people as fast as you can. So before I close the video, I'll share with you. Think about what the narcissist took from you attention-wise. You probably were waking up and they were long gone, maybe on a 30-mile bike ride, and they came back in the afternoon and claimed they were too tired, but you had to cook and clean and whatever happened. When you were at work, you were thinking about the narcissist, and if your phone got a text, you'll be looking to see if it was them because you were on a short leash back then and you had to do what they wanted. If you had to go to the grocery store to pick up food or to pick up dry cleaning or dog food or take the dog to the vet or return a rental car or rent a car or book airline tickets, whatever, you were doing all that too. Then you had to hold your breath when you went on vacation. Is the narcissist going to blow up the vacation the minute you got in the airplane? Or will they wait till you check in? Or will they be with you for maybe one breakfast out of 7 when you went away? Or would they be triangulating you or acting like they were single, taking the wedding ring off when you'd be eating breakfast again on day 7 of that vacation? You never knew what you were going to get when you're with them because your energy and your attention was going into them. Who they're with, what they're doing, why they're not with you, blaming yourself, wondering, feeding the beast, being trapped in the narcissistic fog, knowing that there's only one way out of it, and that's to get as far away from the parasite as you possibly can. But you didn't know that because of the 2 words, TB, trauma bond. Again, you didn't know what you know now. So now you realize, because you made it this far in the video, that A, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. B, the narcissist doesn't have access to you any longer. C, your attention is going back where it should be, which is in yourself. And D, this is the most part of the video, the most important part of the video. You understand something now that very few people will ever understand. You know what it's like to be in the narcissistic abusive cycle. You know what it's like to be trapped in your own house. You know what it's like to be giving all of your money to a bottomless pit, jumping in your car, going to work, your gas tank being almost on empty, not even having enough money to buy a coffee on the way to work, and thinking about how you're going to pay that month's electricity bill. Yeah, you probably lived that exact story. Welcome to the club. I did too. On top of all those things, you also were wondering, let's say it was a weekend, let's say the narcissist was in a good mood for some weird reason. Well, what would the weird reason be, Andrew? It's because they were probably cheating on you, or they probably were keeping a secret from you, or grooming a new supply source, or they just threw somebody under the bus at work. I don't know what it was, but this is why their behavior is rather peculiar and it's not sustainable or stable. But maybe you had a decent weekend and you would be saying to yourself, wow, this is actually going okay. Well, what's going on here? Well, what's going on there is they were keeping you tethered to that invisible leash because they were trying to give you a mini little love bomb or a mini little period of time where you would be happy thinking that they were actually who you wanted them to be. Then Monday would roll around and welcome to reality. Here we go again. Here comes all the texting, the blaming, you didn't do this, why did you do that? I can't believe you didn't pay the bill, whatever. This is what these people do. That's why the narcissist is stuck and trapped in a loop. They can't escape it. They know it. They want to trap people in it, and they want to consume those people like a fly falling into a spider's web. and they don't want anyone to ever heal, to see behind the mask, or to put themselves back together, which is why you are different. That's why you are stronger than you know. So everyone, that's the video. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the beautiful Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning. No matter where you are on the planet, you are not alone. I love you all, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And this is a really nice location I found. Yes, there's a train that just went by, but if you look at the background here, absolutely gorgeous. And it is wind-proof, or so it appears right now. So I wanted to jump up here and create the video. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think. And I will let you know this before I go. The narcissist took your attention. They took it off of anything that was improving your life, anything that wasn't improving their life, and they placed it back into them. The narcissist wanted to consume your time, your money, your attention, your energy, your hobbies, your relationships, how you slept, when you slept, who you talked to, who you didn't, where your money went, where it didn't go. They wanted this. They need it, not from you. They need someone to be there for them, because the narcissist is weak, they're a coward, they're a bully, and they abuse anybody who doesn't know what narcissism is. Now that you know it, you need to stay away from these people, and you need to heal and heal properly. I love you all, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great January 2nd. I love you. Bye, you guys.